thank you so much for your patience with all of that. It's nothing like a bit of technical difficulties to kickstart our panel discussion. Thank you so much, though, to our keynote speakers before. It's a tough act to follow, but I've got three incredible women who are coming on stage with me shortly to be able to share their game-changing, their disrupting, their innovating experience. So I hope that the women have been sorted with Mary at the back with microphones. Absolutely, I've got a thumbs up. So please, I'm going to take a seat here at the end and welcome our panelists up here on stage as well. If I can have Maria Idrissi, Alicia Mupin, and Katya as well, Adams, up on stage to join me here. There we go. Lovely, thank you, ladies. Is this a good setup? Can everyone see from here? Wonderful. Do you want to take a seat across here, ladies? Yeah, I'll sit here at the end. Then everyone can see you. Great. I'm sorry. I hope everybody over this side of the stage can see us as well. But we're going to get started quite quickly because I know we're running slightly behind schedule here. I really wanted to have today's discussion run with a lot of tangents that are similarities that all the women can sort of commentate and speak about, and they all come from a very varied background. But I've managed to find some similarities in the way that they are disrupting, in the way that they're game-changing, and the way that they're innovating as well. So you've got the bios in your agendas. I don't need to introduce the incredible women that are here on stage with me at the minute. But Maria, I wanted to start with you, first and foremost. You are not just concerned with making a name for yourself in fashion. You want to inspire women all around the world and really change the game with your message of equality. So why is representation so important to you?
First of all, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be in Dubai again. So, representation for me was probably what got me where I am today, because there was literally barely any representation of Muslim women, visible Muslim women, in the media, and if it was never positive. And when I first started as a model with H&M, that's when I really realized people were so ignorant to the message of Islam and the message of what the hijab means. And as much as I was in fashion, which seems like a very, shallow, just image-focused industry, I needed to have some purpose. I needed to have some substance to what I do. And I found myself doing more talks and being on the news more than I was actually doing photo shoots. And one of the main conversations that would come up would obviously be, oh, so at what age did your dad make you wear the hijab? Or like, what age did you have to wear the hijab? And it's like, I never had to wear the hijab. I chose to wear it when I was about 17. And none of my family actually wear hijab. It's only me and my mum. And that shocked a lot of people. And the fact that they were so shocked then motivated me even more to be like, okay, there's a hijab ban in France right now. There's people that still don't understand that hijab is not a form of oppression. And it was because there was no representation that actually made me realize that is so important, that we need that representation to be positive in the media.
Just incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. Alicia, I want to move on to you now. Since you joined Aster DM Healthcare back in 2012, you've risen very quickly through the ranks of that private healthcare company that was actually founded by your father. Just incredible. Now, at the time when you joined, you really had no intention of going into the family business. So why did you choose healthcare?
Thank you, Anna, and thanks everyone for having us here. It's a real honor. So to go back to your question, I think I come from a family of 3 girls, and right from when I was young, there was a kind of a path which was set, maybe culturally, that I thought we had to follow and was kind of being geared or groomed towards. So the whole idea is, yes, we are very lucky, we've come a long way. So I had the opportunity for education, for learning, growth, and my parents were very open to sending me far away for college, for my education. I went to the US. But there was a point when I was in college and I was saying that maybe I want to go into medicine, and I had to have like conversation with my mom where she said, wait, that's going to take a long time for you to be a doctor. I don't think we can wait that long, because you will have to get married, you have to have children. And to some extent, I was coerced to move into a career which would take much shorter time for me. So instead of having an 8-year to become a doctor, I chose going into something which will finish off in 4 years, and I can go through a path which was more followed or more expected out of, from my culture. And I did end up doing finance. I became a chartered accountant. I worked in consulting. And I never thought I would actually pursue my dream to be in healthcare, which I always wanted as a child. And I felt a little bit disturbed somewhere because that was something which I always thought was my calling when I was growing up. And it was only after I went to England, I did what I was supposed to. I got married, I had a child. And when my son had an accident, that my whole world came crumbling down. And that's when I had a lot more much deeper, closer interaction with life, death, and healthcare. And I said, you know what? My calling is in healthcare. This is what I was meant to do. This is what echoes in my heart. And I sort of said, I need to take control of my life. It cannot be everyone can give you guidance. Everyone can tell you what they want you to do, what they would like you to do. At the end, only you can take responsibility for your own life and your own decision. And that's when I came back into the family business. The family business was not really the choice. The choice was to come back to healthcare. It was to be in something where I can make an impact, in something that I was extremely passionate for. And that's been one of the best decisions I have ever taken. And it goes back to just kind of following your gut. And I think my gut said it when I was 5, but I didn't listen to it until I was 25.
That's incredible. I think a lot of people can resonate with that story. We're going to come back to that in just a moment. Katya, I believe you're all mic'd up.
I think so.
Okay,
yes.
Fantastic.
Hello, everyone. I'm in the room.
I want to hear a little bit more then about the challenges that you've faced in your own industry, in your own field, about being a disruptive voice and really the character that you have had to create and foster and establish in yourself to keep going. Can you tell us a little bit more about that journey and why it's so important to spread that message as well?
Sure. So I have 2 backgrounds of industry, if you like. I have a background in medicine and worked particularly in emergency medicine for a number of years, and now do a lot of work more in faith-based, particularly in Christian environments, and both are male-dominated. And really the challenges in both places have been very similar. I think when you are trying to lift your head up above the parapet, as it were, and start using your voice to bring equality, sometimes you can feel like you're the only voice in the room. And really that was one of the biggest things that I had to kind of grit my teeth and persevere through initially, is recognizing no matter what I might feel, I'm not the only person in the room. I'm not the only person, as is evidenced here today, going for this, pushing for this, saying that women need to be seen as equal. I had to press past the moments where I was treated as entirely invisible in the room, because apparently if you're a woman, you can suddenly be invisible. It's a superpower that we have. And I had to, I think the biggest challenge that I faced for me personally was understanding for me the importance of maintaining grace towards other people and having a heart quick to forgive. I think sometimes when we're pushing for something that is so profound, so needed, so important, we can start becoming hard in how we press for those issues. And somehow along the way, lose ourselves, lose our hearts, lose our nature as we try to see equality. And so for me, the personal challenge has been to be quick to forgive those who've treated me as invisible or who've somehow tried to shut me down, and to work hard to maintain being human, being loving, being gracious, because at the end of the day, if we're to see equality with legitimacy, then we have to win that whilst maintaining our humanity. And so I think that's been the biggest challenge for me.
We're going to hear a little bit more about how to put those challenges and overcome them into practice a little bit later. Thank you, Katja. I want to really start to narrow down the themes of discussion over the next 30 minutes or so, because as I said earlier, it was very clear when I was doing my research on our three panelists here today that there were some similarities and some focus points. So I want to look at three sort of different angles over the next 30 minutes, and we will be opening up the discussion to you as well to join us. This isn't just a one-way channel of communication. So if you do have any questions, please let the ushers know who are walking around. They will have microphones, or I can jump down and you can borrow mine. If you've got any questions for the panelists, don't be shy. This is your opportunity to hear from their experience and to grab their knowledge while you can. So it's an open forum. But in the meantime, I want to focus on the upcoming 2019 year, your community individually and the support that you get. And I want to begin with a hot topic. Bear with me for just a second, because it's going to be social media. Now, we're not going to be going into influencer marketing or any strategies like this, but I want to start with you, Maria. You were really catapulted into the spotlight with the H&M campaign. That was back in 2015. What's your relationship been like with social media through that journey, and how do you use it?
So we have like a love-hate relationship. I'm 26, so people assume that I should be the most tech-savvy and like really excited about it, but I'm an old soul deep down, and it can be really frustrating feeling like you have to work in two different worlds. So I do like things like this even. I'm here today, I'm doing this in real life, but then it's like another job to have to also document that on social media and also kind of put in to a caption what I've said overall today. So there has been a lot more of a struggle, I'd say, for our generation in terms of time management, because we don't really have any time anymore because everything's taken up with social media. And if it's not for work, then it's just a distraction in general. You're just scrolling down, looking at cat videos or whatever. So it's like, I'd say in terms of time, it's consuming. But at the same time, on the flip side, there's definitely a positive angle. A lot of social campaigns and stuff start off with social media. You can kind of get to know someone for who they are because they have control over their own platform rather than just, general media talking about them and you're taking that at face value. So there is definitely a positive and negative. My question is, I don't know how long it's going to last because I know everything is moving more tech and with AI and everything, but I just feel that it's a little bit rocky now because, like, you're in medicine for real. I've got a few followers, so I could put in my bio, oh yes, I'm a mental health advocate or whatever for women's stuff, and it's like people will take that, and it's like that's so messed up because I have no medical background, and yet people put this in their bio, and it's like, yeah, this is gospel now. So I definitely. I don't know where the direction's heading, so that'll be a really great conversation that we could have afterwards if anyone does know. But for now, I just try to focus on using social media as a reflection of my real life rather than using it hoping that it will affect my real life. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong because they put so much energy into an app hoping that it's going to reflect in their real life when in the opposite, it should be just a reflection of your real life.
Can I ask a question, sorry, just before we head across, because I just want to build on that slightly. A lot of the work that you do obviously elevates yourself and the people within your community and the hijab-wearing community at large. Does your approach on modesty extend to what you share on social media? Do you have boundaries or barriers? For myself, I've got 2 young children. I made the decision with my husband that we don't share their faces on social media. Do you have those boundaries as well?
Yes, I don't have children, but I actually don't post up pictures of my younger brothers or my mum or my dad. That's just because I just like to keep something personal to myself. My career is like a 24/7 career. It's not a 9 to 5. So people just expect me to share every moment. Even this, I've got my friend here filming. So it's constant. So I'm like, can I just have one little thing, just like family and certain personal things that I just keep to myself. So there is some boundaries, but I know for some people, their career is the fact that they have no boundaries, and that's why people follow them. So it just depends on your branding and what you do.
Really interesting. Thank you so much. Alicia, I want to get your take on this because mental health and social media have been linked, very much together. It's a hot topic at the minute, especially for women and what it can do to our mental states and the messages. As an active role model in your community, in our community here in Dubai, and also as a mother, soon to be for the third time, what is the biggest challenge that you see for women in your field?
I think, Hannah, this is a very tough discussion, right? Because if you look at mental health, there are not a lot of statistics out there which are validated because a lot of people don't come forth because of taboos and stigmas attached to it. They don't really talk about it. So I remember as a healthcare organization, we started just broadly, slightly, gently touching the topic on certain areas which directly come as an offshoot of the physical part of well-being and health, which was on maternity. So there's a lot of research around women going into depression, postpartum. So we said, at least let us try and see how we can support as a responsible healthcare organization. So we used to reach out to the women within our institution that were having babies. And people really didn't want to even discuss anything like this. There's so much resistance. And I think that it starts off first with us sort of saying that it's okay for us to talk about it because it's just as, it's the same way as having a back pain when you're pregnant, having some of these chemical imbalances and having some of these concerns and having some of these feelings as far as depression is concerned. And it is important for us to be making it very clear that you have a safe environment and a safe culture where people can talk and seek out support and seek out help. As far as social media is concerned, I think it is quite difficult for women because as women, we have an inherent or intrinsic desire to be loved. And we also have the power of multitasking, but you also have the boon or the curse of multitasking that comes with it because you are following people who are beautiful, who are successful, who are rich. Now, not all of them have everything, but you feel like you need to tick all those boxes. So I have someone who's the model who I'm following, and then I have someone who's the CEO I am following, and I have someone who's doing amazing things in the world that I'm following. And here I'm looking at it thinking, why am I not able to do all these things? So I think we need to learn that, we can't be anything and everything. So I think that's one of those things we need to kind of create more in terms of our own self-beliefs and value system and have that confidence internally. And it's about building that and how we can model and create an environment for ourselves and our close community, whether it's our company, our family, our kids. How do you encourage on that confidence? I think that's the most important thing because the one thing that gets shattered the most, I think, in social media is self-confidence. Everyone is showing your highlight reel, my best moments. Nobody's talking about the breakups. Nobody's talking about that, awkward conversation at work and, the dispute with your colleagues or your bosses. So if you are able to bring up that self-confidence, or how can we as a society make sure that we support and not always talk about putting your highlight reel out there, right? So I think that is one part of social media and mental health which is closely linked. I have kids, like you mentioned, and I have this constant battle with my 11-year-old son because, he's either it's gaming or it is, I don't even understand. There's this app where I saw him posting all these dances and videos of a Musical.ly, where, he's got all his dance videos out there, and I just looked at it, I'm like, what are you doing? But you realize that there's so much desire to be connected, to be loved. So one of the other things I think I'd like to go back to saying is there is a third rule that people have spoken about, that a third of the people that you meet will love you. A third of the people that you meet will be on the fence about you. And a third of the people that you meet will not like you, and they might even hate you. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You're not here. And I think it was Richard Branson or someone who said, you're not an ice cream vendor. Not everyone's going to like you. So it's okay. That's okay for us not to be liked by everyone, but be who you are. Be true to who you are. And the people, your like-minded people, will come near you, and they will be, and they're the only people who count. And all that matters is what you feel about yourself as well. So be true to yourself, and that's, I think, a message that we need to model and we need to keep talking about, because there is a pressure from society for us to fit all these boxes, get everyone to like you, and make sure you have the career goals, your professional goals, your personal goals, everything, to have those tick boxes. And that's hard. And it's okay not to have it all, but we have to be okay with it internally. So that's what we try to do as much as possible, start the dialogue in healthcare, because it's not at all about only physical health. I think physical illnesses are usually a symptom of something else mentally that's bothering you. So when we're talking about ulcers, when we're talking about stomach pains, when you're talking about hip pains, it's some imbalance as far as your internal system's concerned. So let's start inside and then become stronger outside.
Really incredible. Katya, I can see you nodding, and a lot of people here in the audience.
Thank you.
I want to get your viewpoint on this, Katya, because online and offline and in the work that you do, how is it that you maintain your personality as a woman? You spoke about two very male-dominated fields that you work in professionally. How is it that you maintain that sense of femininity in the face of such strong masculinity?
Yeah, if I can pick up on something that Alicia said, I loved it, being true to yourself. And I think the terms femininity and masculinity, they mean something different to each person. And that's okay, because what we're suggesting, or what I'm suggesting, isn't following a formula where to be feminine you have to wear pink and have lipstick on. And you know, we've each got to define what that looks like for ourselves, but then be true to who we are. I think the temptation for anyone in a male-dominated workspace is to feel that to make a difference, we should somehow become a little bit more manly to have our voices heard. And so we see it often where women just tone it down a little bit. And when I say it, I mean them being a woman. They go in dressing with the clothes that they love, or looking the way they like, or speaking at the pitch that is normal to them. And there can be a temptation to alter that pitch just a little bit so you sound just a bit more appropriate or acceptable to the men in the room so that they might hear you. Or maybe tone down the emotion a little bit, because if a man gets passionate, he's passionate. If a woman gets passionate, she's emotional. And so we start toning down the things that make us intrinsically women, because we feel like we have to be heard, and maybe to be heard will be more acceptable if we come across more like a man. And so I'm really passionate for myself about making the small choices that make me feel like a woman, and this is going to be unique to each woman, but I'm very conscious about making those choices and not giving into the fear of maybe not being heard because I look like a woman. So it's the small decisions for me. Before I speak, I love to put on a pair of heels, because heels make me feel more feminine. They might not make you feel more feminine. Again, it's a unique thing that we each need to decide, but I love to very consciously look at what I'm wearing, the decisions I'm making, the tone of my voice, how emotional I get, and try to push past the temptation to tone the woman Katya down, because authenticity is key for us making an impact. Our power is rooted in the unique voice that each of us have. And it will become illegitimate if we try to adopt someone else's voice in order to bring the change that we were put on this planet to bring. And so I really feel for myself that I can't possibly do the things that I dream of if I try to be someone else, a more masculine person as I do those things. And so with my social media and with real life, I'm really trying to just be aware of that temptation to be more masculine, and then not give in to the fear of they won't hear me as a woman, or they won't see me, or they won't take me seriously because I'm small and I'm young and I'm a woman. No, I kind of push past those, steel myself, steady my nerves, and say, I have a voice, I have been given power to use, and it's really important. The world needs my voice. The world needs your voice, just as you, not as anybody else.
You have to be different if you want to make a difference.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredible. I really love that, and I want to sort of build on that because you spoke in your TED Talk, Maria, about the importance of family and what your family taught. You did a great impression of them, which was very funny. You come from a mixed heritage. What's your family's thoughts been as you embark on this new career? And I know that we spoke off stage about your sort of plans for the future. Does that involve fashion, or does it involve something outside of fashion?
Okay, so I'm mixed. So my mum's Pakistani and my dad's Moroccan. But I did a DNA test recently, and I'm like the United Nations, which I think everyone should do one. It literally would unite the world if we all realized like how much we have in common. So being mixed, I think, has helped a lot, because some people feel that when you're not one identity, you don't fit in anywhere, whereas for me, I take it as I fit in everywhere I go. Even when I come here in the airport, they're so nice to me. They think I'm Emirati. I'm like, I'm just go with it, you know. So I do feel that being like racially ambiguous, it's really helped me in my career, because I'm able to have conversations and be a part of so many different communities and just get involved and learn from all types of people. But that being said, at the same time, especially on social media, I have had criticism because, I don't connect to just one community, or I don't show enough of this side, I don't show enough of that side. And because, Morocco's in Africa, and a lot of people assume that I should be really pro-Middle East, pro-Arab, and it's like, technically, none of my parents are actually from the Middle East. And people just struggle to understand that. So there is definitely some strains, especially from social media, with being mixed. But at the same time, I try to focus on all the positive and just run with that. My family are, as I said, they're liberal. They're not very practicing. My dad's family is quite wild, actually. You know how Moroccans are, if you know Moroccans. So I know it was never an issue me becoming a model, and I think that's what makes my story a little bit different, a little bit more edgy, because at first, when people were interviewing me, it was almost like they wanted to hear that kind of rags to riches, like really depressing story of how my family, was against me and I was threatened with death if I pursued this. When in reality, my dad was like, yes, go, you're going to pay the mortgage for us. Go. So like, I had a lot of support from my family actually doing what I'm doing. As long as I was like not in a bikini, like they were all for it. Everyone was happy. And it's that kind of message that I want to push as well as a Muslim woman. Like, we don't all come from this typical scenario of like our parents have forced us into doing certain things. Whereas for me, it was everything has been a genuine choice. And even though I didn't choose to be a model, I choose to remain, and I chose to continue in this path. But the future for me is looking a little bit away from fashion and more into film. And that goes back to the representation thing. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the fashion industry, or if anyone works in fashion. It is becoming, I believe, a lot more diverse. Of course, there's still some way to go. There's still some ignorance, but it is improving. And so I kind of feel like, okay, the ship is sailing. I like a challenge. What's the next thing that I can do? Now I've got this platform. Now I've got these connections and this voice. How can I use it in a different industry that's still going to be highlighting Muslims in the media? And my background was actually it was always in film. I wanted to be an actress when I was younger. And then when I started to wear a hijab, it's like, all right, well, I can't do that many roles anymore. And I know now today people will say, no, there's so many opportunities, but back then there wasn't. It was like, if you can't do everything in film, it's already so competitive. How on earth are you going to try to do that with a hijab if you can't kiss people? Just simple things. You can't take your clothes off genuinely. So it's like, okay, I don't want to enter a career again that has restrictions, because naturally, as a model that wears a hijab, there are restrictions. So I'm looking more behind the scenes. I'm actually producing a film now. So hopefully in like a couple of years it will be out. So yeah, that's where I feel that we need more positive representation, and that's just not for Muslims, but for people of ethnic descent. Like, our stories aren't told. There are so many films, when it comes to the representation of black people, it's always a slave movie, and it's like, no. Like, people like Mansa Musa, he was the richest man to date in history. So why has his story not been told? Why have people from India, people that were there was a queen, Queen Razia. She was a sultan's daughter, a Muslim woman who was a warrior princess. Why is her story not being told? And we constantly see negative representation in films or typical stereotypes, and that's what I want to change. And I'm not going to expect someone else in Hollywood to do it when I come from that background. And it goes back to what you said about authenticity. We need to keep that authenticity. There's no excuse anymore. So that's where I feel my calling is now.
So good.
Watch the space then, lots to come. Alicia, you work in the family business and your own family is expanding as well. Can you share those sort of day-to-day dynamics and I guess as well what happiness is and how that fits in for you with that support and community around you?
So Anna, I think one of the most important things we need is the support system, right? So family becomes absolutely critical, whether it's in the form of parents, in terms of spouse, in terms of friends. I think that's something you have to actively build on. And sometimes we are reluctant as women to seek help. We feel like we need to do everything ourselves, and there is no need for that. I mean, I remember living sort of far away from home for a while, and you have more limited options. You have to really build that support network around you, reach out to friends, because as much as you need help, other people need help as well. So how do you create that environment around you, people who will support you, who you can support, and build something which is a safe space for you. Happiness is an elusive billion-dollar question for everyone, isn't it? We all are here, we want to be happy, and what happiness means to everyone. From a healthcare perspective, if I can sort of just spend a couple of minutes on it. So as far as medical terms are concerned, they say that happiness comes when there are 4 chemicals in your body. They say it's when there's equal amounts of dopamine, endorphin, serotonin, and oxytocin in your body. Now, dopamine is something which is released in your body when you achieve something like, when you're happy with your job, when you have some of those, your comfortable life, and you have your promotions and those sort of aspects. That's one of the chemicals that's released. Endorphins, that's when you take care of your physical health. So when you work out and you have a good workout and you feel good, that's endorphins which are released into your system. And then you have serotonin. Now this is where it gets a little bit more away from yourself. You see a lot of people, once they've achieved a lot of success in life or traditional measures of success, that they go into helping others. And it's when they start become charitable and they want to do things for other people. That's serotonin which comes out because you want it to be beyond yourself, maybe just your family. You want to do things for the society. You want to do things for the world. And the last is oxytocin, and that's when you have a social bond with someone, when you're hugging your daughter, when you're with your friends and you have that relationship and you feel happy with that bond with that person. So I think it's that combination of those 4 things, and it's equally important. The important message out of this is it's equally important for us to have that physical well-being, the mental well-being, the social connection with the world that will really help us in terms of gaining that happiness. So I think forming that support system, looking internally, taking physically care of yourself are all important for us as far as happiness is concerned. And I always say that healthiness is happiness, because the most important, the one thing that you can control the most is your own health, and you need to take care of it. And there are very little things. And there was a book by this author, Mo, who's ex-Google, and he had said that happiness is usually equated to when events in your life doesn't go according to expectations. Now, we cannot control the outside world. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what Trump's going to do tomorrow, but there are very little things which I can sort of take care of. But the only things I can look after is my way of perceiving it and responding to it, right? So I think that's something as women we need to decide. I'm like, I can't control all the other people at work. I can't control what my son's going to do tomorrow or my daughter's going to do, but at least how I'm going to respond to it is something which I can. So that's something which we have to be mindful about and create a system around you with coaches, with mentors. Seek those people out, because it makes such a huge difference in your life. And I think that has to be a conscious effort as women we need to do. And it's okay to be vulnerable, just like you were saying about authenticity. Sometimes we're so we feel forced to show our strength and how strong we are, but our strength also comes from our vulnerability. So let's show that vulnerability, and let's be open about that.
Really, really interesting. Thank you for sharing. Katya, I just want to get your thoughts on this, because in order for you to bring disruption, you need to have a support system to help you be a disruptor. You've been very vocal about this, and that in order for you to be here with us today, your husband is at home in Durban, I believe it is, with your children. So tell us more about how he's an enabler of this disruption that you bring.
Yeah. So I work with my husband, and it's an absolute joy to work with someone who wants to champion you and champion the causes that you believe in as much as you do. And so this is how we work. When he's up on a platform, he's also a speaker. I take care of the children. And when I'm doing that, he takes care of the children. And honestly, beyond what I say, there is such a disruptive power when people see my husband holding our babies while I'm up on the platform. The conversations that come out of that, where people say to him, how do you let her do what she's doing? And he's like, I don't let her do anything. She's doing what she was made to do, and I'm doing what a father does, because incidentally, fathering is not babysitting, it's parenting. That's just the way it works. So I think, like Alicia was saying, sometimes when we get focused in on something, we can get so zoomed into that thing, and our perspective becomes what we must do to achieve that thing. And when we do that, we can zone out the other voices that are crucial to empower us, to engage us, to cheer us on in order to see that thing come to pass. No sportsman does it on their own. No businessman does it on their own. And sometimes we think of humility as playing it small, but I think humility is being able to say, I'm vulnerable, please help me. Humility is being able to say, I know that I'm powerful, but I know that everything that I have in and of myself isn't enough to achieve the task on my own. I can't eat clean my way into equality. I can't self-believe into equality. Actually, there needs to be a whole community, a whole support system that is required to bring the task to hand. So I love that I get to do that with my husband, but beyond my husband, there's a whole family network that believes in this and is enabling me, empowering me to do this, because at the end of the day, the people who change the world are the ones who know that they need the collaboration of many, many others so that we can do it together.
Something that Peter Fisk was just speaking about. There he is. Yeah, we were listening. We were taking notes. Thank you very much, Katya. I just want to try and get Mary's attention, hopefully at the back, because I know that we're running out of time. But I've got one more question for our panelists, and I want to make sure that we also take some from the audience as well. So just raise your hand if you do have a question for any of our panelists here at the minute. We do have a set of microphones at the back. We've got a question at the back. Hold your question there. I'm just going to ask my final question for the panelists. 1 second, Mary, and then we'll get to you right there at the back. I see you. So just to wrap up here, then we are heading into a new year. I don't want to delve into what your life goals and your dreams and ambitions and how you're going to absolutely just do incredible things next year. What are you taking from this year into next year? What have you learned in 2018?
So one of my mentors saw that I was slightly becoming like a jack of all trades, and jack of all trades, master of none. So he was like, you've got a chasing mentality right now, and you need to come out of that. So he said to me, stop chasing and start building. And even though I've heard that line in other ways, it never really clicked like it did this year, because even if I was still in fashion, and it might have seemed like I'm trying to do everything within fashion, it wasn't like I'm building myself or my own personal brand. It was like I'm trying to do work with so many different people, so many different areas, and I'm not building anything for myself. And so I took a step back, and I just thought to myself, what is my purpose? That was like the key thing. What exactly is my purpose? I had an idea, but what is it that I want to do? And I feel like your purpose shouldn't be necessarily about you. It's about what you do for others. Leaving a legacy isn't about what you've done for yourself. It's about how you impact other people when you're gone. So I then had to rethink, what is my purpose? What am I going to leave behind? And that's where the message about representation always came in. Like, that's what I've been doing. Growing up, like, the closest thing that looked like me was Jasmine from Aladdin, and she's not even a human. So it was like, there needs to be a change, and I'm already on that path, and I'm enjoying it. And I want to just be able to use everything that I've done in the past, the people that are around me, the support network that I have, everything that I've learned, and put it into that one goal, which is about bringing more positive representation of Muslims and minorities in the media. And so that's when I said, okay, how am I going to achieve this? And then you have to like work kind of backwards. So the strategy to get there. And so the one thing I definitely learned was like, stop chasing other opportunities, what other people are doing, looking at social media and saying, that looks good, maybe I should try that. And just working out, no, this is what I'm here to do. How do I do it? And you just end up saving a lot more time as well. You just block away a lot of crap, and yeah, just put your head down and focus.
Fantastic. Can't wait to see more of that. Alicia, you've got a huge amount going on in your personal and professional life at the minute. To summarize sort of everything that's happened so far in this year and is yet to come as well for you, what exactly does the world need right now in terms of healthcare in your perspective?
What the world needs.
Yeah. And what do you want to leave as well with the work that you do for generations to come?
So I think we're at an interesting time as far as technology is concerned. Everyone's talking about the fourth IR and how it's disrupting everything. So one of the key takeaways that we always discuss, at least as a healthcare organization, we say that it's going to get disrupted so much, right? There was somebody who was talking about jobs are for robots, and humans can go and live a life finally. So it's always interesting seeing how is the world going to change over the next few years or the next decade or two. So if you look at what cognitive systems and AI and everything is doing, it's more in terms of making our life easier, right? I mean, things that our brains use to spend a lot of time processing, doing the analysis, are things which will become a lot easier for us as far as technology and those sort of advancements, and embracing that technology is important to make that happen. On the other side, what do us as humans, we excel in? We excel as far as our morals are concerned, our compassion is concerned, our ambition is concerned, our, it's the softer part, the love, the taking care of each other. Those are the things that we really excel in, and that's what needs to come to the forefront now. And these are things which are very intrinsic traits of women. So the future is female. We need to make sure that those things that we try to cover up with the masculinity, we need to put that away. In fact, it is about even the men trying to embrace more of these characteristics, which are, again, in each one of us. But those are the things which we require for the future, because it's not anymore about being out there shouting about, how much I can read Excel sheets and how loud I can talk. It's really about now the decisions as far as values and morals are concerned. So let's embrace that, and I think that's what the world needs.
I love that. The future is female. Katya, just finally, we're into that time of year when everybody will look at their New Year's resolutions and, new year, new me, and that kind of thing. But I want to pick up on something that Maria mentioned, which was about legacy, because you're very big on legacy versus significance.
That's right.
What should we be focusing on with this? Why should we know the difference, and what should we be chasing?
I think very simply the difference between significance and legacy is that significance is me-driven, legacy is other-driven. The importance of that, it's not that significance is bad. I actually believe every person carries significance and has something worthwhile to bring to the table. But it's not that significance is bad, it's just that significance doesn't give you the perseverance required to see the task through. Because if it's just about you, when there's a lot of opposition or difficulty or challenge where people are making you feel small and you no longer feel like it's fun, whatever it is you're involved in, the temptation is just simply to walk away because it was about me in the first place and I'm not having fun anymore. But if my mindset is more about legacy, what can I leave for others? What What can I leave for my daughter and my son? Then suddenly the challenge doesn't have the power over me, because no matter how difficult it is, I can grit my teeth and I can push through, because I'm not working for what I can achieve for myself. I'm working for what I can achieve for them, and that's worth pushing through the challenges. And so that's, I think, the importance of keeping our eyes on legacy. It will help us persevere through the challenging moments.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We're going to open it up to our audience at the minute. And we did have that first question come in right from the back. Please stand up. You've got the microphone. The floor's yours.
Yeah, hi, hello. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Really impactful. Can I ask, it's a two-part question. Could I ask if you could be a little vulnerable with us today and maybe share some of your real vulnerable moments from your personal life and how you overcame them? And secondly, what does your heart still cry for? What are questions or answers do you still seek? Thank you.
Would anyone like to take the first question? I really like that second part about what are you still striving for? I think, Maria, you were very clear with that, but perhaps, Katya, I can start with you about what your heart is really striving for, especially after that talk about legacy and significance. What's your mark that you want to make on the world?
If I could do one thing with my life, it would be to empower men and women to understand that they've been given a voice that must be heard. Whatever our sphere of influence, this is as important for the mums at home with their toddlers. I've got 2 toddlers at home, so that's part of my life. But it's as important for the mums at home, for the school janitors, for the CEOs of companies, because each and every one of us has been given a voice, and that voice is important in our sphere of influence. And so obviously my passion is to see women's voices rise up, because I think that's been a vacuum in the generations before us. But I really, I feel like that would be success for me. If I could empower the people around me to use their voices and to know what it is that they were put on planet Earth for, then I'd be a happy woman.
Alicia, is there one aspect that you'd like the audience to just take away? I think you've been very clear about, many aspects of your life that have a lot of importance to you, but what's the one thing that you'd like the audience to take away from this panel discussion today?
I think it would be about social impact, right? I think we all are here to try and make the world a better place. I think that's a driving force for me personally. I said we need to leave the world in a better place than we found it. And like Katya said, all our spheres of influence differ, but it's such a domino effect that you can have. So even if you can touch one person's life and make it better, then we need to be trying to do that so that we can actually leave the world better. So I think that's something that's just extremely personal. How can you impact it? How can you support it? And there is so much that we can help each other in. So let's try and reach out and do that for each other. And that's, I guess, what we're trying to do by being here, right? We're sort of saying that there are things that needs to be discussed, spoken about, and how hopefully everybody who thinks about these issues will get a little bit more self-confidence, a little bit more self-esteem, will sort of be a little bit more vocal, and sort of make a happier future for ourselves and for the world.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all of our incredible panelists today. I think I don't say this on my own, but it's been enlightening, refreshing, and also I feel a very strong connection with all 3 women up here sharing their own individual stories that I can also relate to, and I know there are so many of us in the audience as well. So game-changing, disrupting, and innovating. You heard it here first, and we're looking forward to seeing what happens in 2019. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.